I'm Ralph Albert Thomas, CEO and Executive Director of the New Jersey Society of CPAs, and welcome to another edition of IssuesWatch Extra. Today I'm joined by two representatives, colleagues and friends from Capital One Bank, Bill Gascoigne, who's Senior Vice President, Professional Services Group, and Terese, Senior Vice President, Escrow Management. And we're here to discuss recent findings on economic sentiment at the local level. So welcome, Bill and Terese.
Thank you.
It's good to see you again. It's hard to believe it's been a year since we last sat here and talked about results from our 2014 convention that we had in AC, and now we're here to talk about the 2015 survey. So earlier this year, we teamed up with Capital One Bank for a third consecutive year to poll NJCPA members who attended our annual convention and expo in Atlantic City at the Borgata. This year we had a little over 600 members and probably another 300 guests and exhibitors and sponsors at the event. So we did a survey again to try to gauge opinions on the economy, particularly the taxation landscape and the accounting industry in New Jersey for the coming year. So Bill, let me start with you and ask, really share some good news. For a second consecutive year, there's optimism surrounding business growth in New Jersey, as 85% of our members who were there at the convention and who participated in the survey expect that businesses to grow in the coming year. This sentiment sort of correlates too with an annual study that's done by the ISCPA on their second quarter national economic survey, which was released in early June, which outlines that there are signs that businesses are investing for growth. So Bill, the question is Capital One seeing this with its clients, and specifically it relates to clients in the accounting industry? Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing,
Sure.
what you're hearing from
Thank you, Ralph. We are seeing growth across a wide spectrum of our clients. As a large bank, we have a number of different types of businesses, from retailers, wholesalers, distributors, but we also specialize in professional firms. So we have a number of accounting firms, both large and small, and we are seeing growth. We have relationships with 3 of the big 4, and they're growing almost at double digits year over year. And 2 areas that are spearheading that growth are M&A advisory and just consulting in general. With the smaller firms and the regional firms, we're also seeing growth. But one thing to keep an eye on, what we're seeing is some margin pressure. We're seeing fee pressure. There's a lot of competition out there, and even though top-line revenues are growing, it's something that our accounting firm friends are keeping an eye on. So is the growth,
you say the growth's coming from advisory services with the large firms,
right,
on the consulting side. How about the next tier firms? Are we seeing growth in that area as well with them consulting, or what I would refer to as one-off type initiatives? Because they were absent a couple years ago. People kind of pushed back on that. So is that where?
You're seeing that too, but if you look at the big 4 and the percentage of their total revenue that's coming from accounting and auditing, it's becoming less and less. Mm-hmm. It's more of a percentage of the total top line for the smaller firms, but even small firms today are advisory in nature. So I think you're seeing it across the board.
Okay, interesting. So that's we've seen a little bit of that too in terms of some of the changes in the demographics, in terms of hiring patterns too, in terms of hiring more into the consulting and advisory services, or looking for individuals with that broad-based background of skill sets that can kind of transverse from audit or to advisory services. So now the ISCPA National Economic Update shows in particular that businesses are investing in technology and training. This correlates with and addresses one of the larger challenges facing the accounting industry, as outlined in our survey this year, IT security. So Terese, what areas are your clients investing in? Do they include technology, or what are you seeing?
We see our clients making huge investments in technology. Often our clients will come to us looking for financing for projects around designing new websites, IT security, upgrading computers, phone systems, video conferencing. Technology is definitely a major area of investment. Not only do I see a lot of investment in technology and accounting firms, but also at Capital One Bank, we're making huge investments in technology and going digital. Most recently, I was part of a big project at the bank of developing a new online product called Escrow Express. Okay. It's primarily for law firms where they can easily segregate escrow money, and they do it themselves all online.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You mentioned increase in technology cost or technology innovation. The concern about cybersecurity and issues that we've had over the years. Are you seeing clients really react to try to address that issue, or is that mostly a larger firm or a larger company issue that should?
Everybody's concerned with cyber fraud. Everybody, not only in businesses, but even at an individual level. It's just a hot topic all around.
Okay. One more question for you in terms of, we see a challenge in the accounting industry from our members that in sourcing talent and addressing a skills shortage. If you recall, back in the early, I guess, 2000s, there was a real decline in accounting enrollments and people graduating in accounting. Now that has grown, but there's that gap right there. So what are you seeing from your clients? Are they having problems sourcing talent or getting people with the right skills to position themselves to be ready for the next 5 years?
Talent and retaining talent is also a very big hot topic. I think the first challenge is finding that talent. It seems that a lot of the good candidates get scooped up very quickly. But the second and probably bigger challenge is retaining that talent. A lot of firms we see going to great lengths to develop programs or incentives to keep associates at their company. Some of the investments we see are in career pathing for associates, or even different types of training. That's something we also do at Capital One Bank, because once we find that talent, we want to retain that talent and protect our investment as well.
So you mentioned the investment in talent. I mean, I know that firms are being very aggressive going out and getting the people, but what types of things are you seeing your clients do in terms of staff development or training? Are they focusing on leadership training? Are they focusing on communication skills, soft skills? Is there a particular segment that they're really focused in terms of retaining their existing staff? I
think the programs are kind of across the board. It's really for the associate to really decide what skills they want to develop more. So firms will offer various types of programs, such as you mentioned, leadership skills, communication. Education is key. Education is great on every level.
I know in the accounting profession, one of the big concerns is because when you look at the demographics, we have this group called the baby boomers. And Bill, I think you and I probably fit into that. Yeah. We're going to be exiting at some point stage.
I know a few of those people.
So I'm curious as to, are your clients focused on developing the next realm of leadership in their organizations?
Let me take that one,
okay, good.
Terese. At your own offsite a year ago, one of the key topics was this whole issue of succession planning.
Right.
And you're very right, Ralph. Taking myself as an example, there are a lot of people in these accounting firms today that will be stepping down, and the next generation needs to come up and take their place. So what we're seeing with our clients, and we see it internally within the bank, are training programs specifically geared toward developing the new leaders for the next generation. And it's a critical issue.
Now, Bill, I have this question for you. I know we've talked about business growth and that people are a little more optimistic, and it's been a big topic of discussion. But so is the decline in New Jersey's economy as compared to the national economy. I think if you take surveys that have been done about New Jersey and compare them to surveys nationally, you'll find that New Jersey is a little bit lower in terms of its level of optimism. In fact, year to year, 14% fewer CPA members surveyed ranked the New Jersey economy as good or better than the national economy. Several economic indicators cite the challenging tax environment and the lack of a pro-growth strategy in New Jersey. What opportunities do you see from a Capital One perspective that could make the business environment more attractive for companies here? I think that's the big issue of the day. What can we do here in New Jersey to stimulate growth and to move us from where we are today to just a little bit up further and inch, sort of the hedgehog approach?
First, a couple data points. Number one, since the Great Recession, the national economy has grown roughly at 1.9% on a real adjusted basis. Jersey's economy has only grown at 0.8, so less than half. In terms of employment levels, although nationally we're at record levels in terms of the number of people that are working, here in New Jersey we're only back to levels seen in 2000, which is actually pre-recession. It's tough when you compare New Jersey to the rest of the country. We've got certain things going against us. We're a mature state. We're an older state. We are a very wealthy state. We rank number 3 in per capita income. But we have strict regulatory environment, and it makes it harder to develop land in New Jersey. Zoning rules are strict, and our taxing policies are pretty strict as well. To answer your question specifically, what I think we need to do is, first of all, recognize that we might have a problem and come up with solutions. One would be trying to allocate parcels of land for high-tech development and maybe having zoning easing in those areas. Training and development, education and training development are vital. And we do a pretty good job of that in the state. We have a lot of education here in New Jersey. And a third thing would be taxation. Some of the southern states that are competing with us, think Sunbelt, think Texas, think Florida, the Carolinas, have more lenient tax policies. So I think it's a combination of land development, training and development, and taxation, and then coming up with an overall strategy to make it a high priority. We've done some good jobs, but other states have done better.
You've opened the door talking about tax policy, and that's certainly something that we've been focused on here at the Society. What one thing, and it's always tough to say what's the silver bullet, but we probably need several bullets to get this thing going. But if you were in the catbird seat, what would you see as probably the one thing that we could start out with that could truly make a difference in the business environment here?
Well, I would say taxation is a key thing. We have death taxes in New Jersey. We have inheritance taxes. Only one other state out of the 50 have that. So I think you would start with taxation. And I'm not sure there is one silver bullet, Ralph.
No.
I'd pivot back to my answer previously about land development and zoning and the regulatory environment. I think you need to, it's a tough balance. But those are things that I would look at if I were king for a day.
Well, maybe we'll have to make you king for a day and get some things started. But while the tax environment remains an obstacle, our survey did show a 10% decline in the number of CPAs who expect their clients to pay more taxes in 2016. Bill, could this be a factor in the willingness of businesses to invest in their own growth, particularly from the small business?
I think it's key with small business. I think we said last year on your show, Terese said it, that no one likes paying more taxes, and I think that's true. And if 10% of the accountants feel that their clients are going to spend less money in taxes in this year versus last, that's a good thing, for sure. The regulatory and tax burden on small business is huge. They don't have the resources that our larger businesses do. So anything that can lower the tax burden on the small business, I think, will be helpful.
Okay.
Does anybody ever say, I didn't pay enough taxes this year?
No, I don't think people say that. I think it's quite the opposite. They feel they pay too much. But then, if we look at, taxation and the taxation climate definitely needs to have some work done. What else could be put on the table to help stimulate, particularly in the small business arena? Because it's been estimated that we have close to maybe 300,000 small businesses.
Right.
And if you just kind of do the math and say, boy, if we could get 10% of them to hire one more person, boy, that would be 30,000 jobs. Wouldn't that be a boost to the New Jersey economy? So what would be a driver or something that would maybe push small businesses to add an employee or to bring on additional workforce?
Well, other than taxes, educational training. I know the EDA has some programs that give breaks to companies that hire certain individuals and train them up. I alluded earlier to certain enterprise zones where you could have maybe a more lenient regulatory environment so companies could go there, high tech. There are places in other states where they've congregated, Silicon Valley or Austin, Texas, or the Research Triangle down in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. I think we need places like that. There are incubator zones in Newark that I'm familiar with. I think there's some in Camden. I think we need more of that type of thinking to attract the small business people to want to invest there.
I think looking at best practices, maybe what some of our friends across the river in New York.
Just getting ready to go there. I tell you. Okay.
I think
because you all bank in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important.
Our franchise does stretch across the river.
So what's new? What could we be doing? We often hear that we're not competitive, and that are you seeing some of your clients reallocate resources to New York, Pennsylvania, as opposed to investing here because the climate's a little more business friendly there right now than what it is in New Jersey?
Well, I have one client, I don't want to mention the name, it's unimportant, but they are being wooed heavily by some of these southern states. And they're in an expansion mode. They're looking for large buildings, a large footprint, and so the representatives from Texas and Louisiana have approached this company on expansion. That's not to say Jersey's not getting its fair share, but it's tough to compete with some of these southern states that have abundance of land, less zoning restrictions, less regulatory restrictions, and an overall younger
tax landscape.
Exactly, younger workforce and a better tax environment.
Yeah, I mean, I know the big issue we have a lot to do. And I think the issue is, where do you start? Right. Where are some of the things, and how do we start? How does the business community come together and talk about this with one voice, so to speak, as opposed to each of us going with our little mandate or our agenda down to Trenton and saying we need this, we need that. Do you ever see a core group coming together that includes the business alliance groups, the financial services industry, hopefully the accounting profession coming together and really standing tall and saying, this is what we think the foundation should look like? Is that in the cards for us here in New Jersey?
Communication is key. Communication is what it takes to get anything done. So if that could happen, it would be great.
I think you're alluding to like Chamber of Commerce initiatives,
sure,
things of that nature, and I'm aware of it peripherally. I'm not actively involved. Yeah. But even on the train trip to Washington that I know you've been on, where you get political leaders together with business leaders, that's how stuff happens. Yep. It's at a grassroots level.
Communicating.
And it is communication.
Well, the State Chamber has a big event coming up in September. I believe it's September 17th and 18th in Atlantic City, where they're trying to do exactly that, bring all the business groups together, all the local chambers together. We're going to be down there, and hopefully we'll be able to identify a couple of things that we can start moving forward with to get things moving in the right direction here. Clearly we have a lot of challenges and a lot of things to work on. The taxation landscape, transportation trust fund is still something that is being talked about, and hopefully will get addressed. Throw death taxes in there, because that's something that I think I hear a lot about from my members. Right. And individuals want to know. In fact, members want to know so they can perhaps do some planning themselves in addition to the planning that they're doing for their clients. So, well, we've had a great conversation, Bill and Terese. I really thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to get the view of the financial services industry on what's happening here in New Jersey. So thank you again for joining us. And thank you too for watching IssuesWatch Extra and another edition of what has proved to be, I think, an exciting conversation on what needs to be done in New Jersey.